The most important day in your life is when you're born, and the second most important day in your life is when you find out why. I had just taken the antiretroviral medications and physically started getting better. But I got depressed, and spiritually and emotionally, I couldn't understand what had happened. I figured it out. It was part of my initiation into being an activist and finding out who I am and why I'm here on this earth. Why was I born? What was I put here for? I know exactly what I was put here for. In interviews and stuff, it's not a problem to get me to talk. The problem is shutting me up. So I'll just keep blabbing until you tell me to stop. I can make you a really nice espresso, like with a stovetop espresso maker with like shade grown, fair trade, like greasy beans. They're shiny, they're so fresh.
You're speaking to my soul, the Brazilian in me.
When we have a break, I'll make each of you a coffee. I am Trevor Stratton, and we are here in my house on Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We're Mississaugan Anishinaabe people. My mom is the one who was born and raised here on the reserve. And my dad's like 5th generation English Canadian. And I've worked for CAAN since 2005. And I was on the board from 2001 until 2005. And my first annual general meeting was 1999. Right after I had just started to physically recover from having AIDS and going on the new antiretroviral treatments, the cocktails. If they came up with a cure for HIV and I took the cure, I would have a really hard time explaining who I am. If I didn't have HIV and if the HIV was no longer an issue, I suppose I'd still be working on the rest of our mandate at CAAN, but my identity is so wrapped up since way more, most of my adult life, basically. I've been positive and advocating and making friends. Most of my friends are actually from connections and networking, through work, through the things I do. But I'm basically pansexual, so I'm two-spirit. I identify as male, although I'll answer to any pronoun. It's not all that important to me, to be honest. Whether I'm feminine or masculine, I don't care. I just am what I am. And in some contexts, I'm the feminine one. When I'm building my deck with all the boys, I'm the most feminine one out there. And maybe sometimes when I'm in a gay bar, I'm more leaning on the more masculine side. So I don't really try to be anything, just who I am. And it's been a long time coming because it took me a while to figure all that out. I used to be a certified organic gardener. I had like 350 free-range laying hens running around, and we'd trade vegetables for meat and stuff. And it was a very big life, but it was during that time when I developed AIDS. But I went in that direction because I was diagnosed with HIV in 1990, met this really cool New Yorker chick on the beach in Jamaica, like we were camping on the beach, and then we had a 10-year-long relationship after that. And during that time, I got really sick, And with her support, the support of my family, my community here, the support of CAAN and many others, I basically got off my deathbed and eventually went back to work. It wasn't right away because nobody knew how long the medications would be effective, or it's like with brand new medications, they don't have a 10-year study on how it's going to go. It felt like climbing a ladder that's not leaning on anything. It was, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm still alive. I'm going to keep climbing. But I remember when I was diagnosed, it took me a couple of years to make the decision to try to make changes in my life to be healthier. Working outdoors, landscape installation, organic gardening, meeting friends that are doing the kinds of work that they like to do, artists and artisans and mechanics, and all of them loved what they did. And most of them had degrees and yet didn't go follow their field of study and ended up doing something that made them even happier than what they thought, the path they thought they were going to go on. So these were all my new friends and mentors, and I realized, hey, I could probably do something like that. But then I got sick, and then that's when I realized why I was born, right? To do this work. It's primarily Indigenous peoples in HIV. That's how it started. But of course, because of all the Two-Spirit people that were around, I was really exposed to Two-Spirit teachings, not from my family and my upbringing, but from being in a leather and denim bar in Toronto and meeting, two big, tough-looking biker Indians in the corner wearing leather jackets. And one of my buddies, who I thought was cute, brought me over and said, "These guys want to meet you." And I walked up to them, and the biggest one looked at me and said, "Hi, my name's Muffin." And I was just like, oh my God, I love these people. And they started to talk to me about Two-Spirit traditions and said, we're here. And we have an organization. Why don't you come and work for us? I'm well suited to do this work with CAAN. Sitting with Indigenous peoples on one hand, or Indigenous peoples living with HIV, and having a consultation where we're all crying and laughing and farting and like just being ourselves and having a good time and getting shit done, to getting in a meeting with all these suits and ties and ministers and United Nations people. And, it's so interesting. And it's my passion. I just love it. We always knew we were way bigger than HIV. Two-Spirit is way much more than HIV. On this reserve, there's a lodge. It's an Anishinaabe lodge, and inside that big teaching lodge is a sweat lodge. And last Friday, we had a Two-Spirit ceremony. And my friend went on a vision quest. He needed to be the one to lead the visioning, and we're looking for the Two-Spirit ceremonies. Like, that's the spirit work. And I guess I'm kind of critical if there's all ceremony and no work gets done. And the whole concept of spirit work and that kind of thing, I'm way less critical of it now. Just from Friday, from that experience, I sort of get it. The spiritual work is not about just that one smudge, one ceremony. It's a continuous ceremony that one leads to another. And as you discover and build up your spiritual knowledge, you get direction. Where else do we need to go to find these ceremonies and these Two-Spirit teachings? Because we believe they're still there. And maybe our ancestors have been trying to tell us something and we're not listening. We have to go into ceremony, our own ceremonies. Not just, we'll let some Two-Spirit in, but to actually have Two-Spirit in there on a Two-Spirit spiritual mission to find the teachings and share them with the people. Because it wasn't about us at all. We weren't there to talk about our childhood and what kind of pain we bring, or it wasn't like that. We were there to support Lyndon to go on this vision quest, I don't know what terminology to use, but it was so powerful. And an honor and a privilege to be one of the people supporting Lyndon to go through that. That was transformational, or like the beginning of a transformation. I'm being drawn in and I'm scared of it, but this has been a long time coming. 30 years of, more than that, 35 years, 40 years of self-exploration and self-acceptance and self-love. So I can be at a point where I'm physically balanced and okay with my Two-Spirit identity, where I think I'm ready to go into this spiritual journey, which is weird for me because it's not like me. At least it hasn't been like me, or I don't know that part of myself. So pretty exciting times, because there's going to be more. Like next month, we're going to do something again to further our understanding and keep looking. Two-Spirit ceremonies out there, and we need to find it.